All right, shalawam. First off, I want to say all praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Kodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders at GMS, and to the elect doing the work in sincerity and in truth. Shalom. Today is Turkey Day, right, or Thanksgiving. Um, and I got an article here. I got a few articles here that I want to get into, and some scriptures, Lord willing. I'll bring it out and I'll bring out the edification, right? So this first article I have here is it's from website voanews.com, and as you can see, food prices put bite on U.S. Thanksgiving feast, right? They're saying this article says that food prices are skyrocketing. Well, I mean they've been skyrocketing, but it's going to affect your turkey dinner today, right? Let's see. I'll start here. Coupled with last year's 40% increase, which was the second largest, the price of a classic meal turkey, stuffing, green peas, sweet potatoes, cranberry, blah, 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 for 10 people has risen more than a third since 2020. And at the outset of the worst U.S. inflation surge in 40 years from 49.60 to 64.05. So it's saying, obviously food prices are skyrocketing, and it's going to affect family dinners, you see? And what's the other article I have here? This is another article saying, here's how much your Thanksgiving dinner will cost you, right? It says Americans are bracing for a costly Thanksgiving this year with double-digit percent increases in turkey, potato, stuffing, canned and other staples. The U.S. government estimates food prices will be up 9.5 to 10.5% this year. Historically, they've risen only 2% annually, right? So normally, with normal inflation, it's only, by going year by year annually, it should have only risen 2%. But this year, it's 9.5 to 10.5%. And I believe turkey is 28% more expensive this year than it is last year. Here it is. It says, as a result, turkey supplies per capita are at the lowest since '86. Right? It says Jordan predicts the wholesale price of a frozen 8 to 16 pound turkey hen, the type typically purchased for Thanksgiving, will hit 177 per pound in November, up 28% from the same month last year. 28%. So I did the math. When is this article? This is from November 17th. So when is this article? So I did the math. A turkey, a 16-ounce turkey at 1.7 per pound would cost you $28. Do I still have it? It'll cost you 20. No, I didn't save. It'll cost you 28 and change, right? Up to now. Now that's up. That's this year. A 16-ounce turkey will cost you about 28 and change. Okay. Now it's up 20% last year. So last year, if you deduct the 20%, it will cost you $20. It was like 20.24. Okay, like $20.26. Right? So that's how much the turkey is going to cost, and it's all across the board. Pumpkins, all the foods that you eat for Thanksgiving, right? And it's gonna go past Thanksgiving, right? This food shortage, this hyperinflation of food, it's gonna go past. It's just gonna get worse and worse, right? It seems like there's a global food shortage, right? It's like what other article I have here? This is from, mind you, I'll leave all these in the description. Holiday hardships. 1 in 4 Americans. This is studyfinds.org. I'll leave it, like I said, in the description. Holiday hardships. 1 in 4 Americans can only afford to spend $100 on Thanksgiving or skipping it entirely. I have a few coworkers that are just skipping Thanksgiving, right? Because it might be around a time of a birthday, right? So it's either you just or if they are doing Thanksgiving, they're just having a small gathering, not a whole big family like they used to, right? But let's get to the source here, right? I got another article here that goes in a little deeper. This is from Global Research. It says engineered food crisis, because we know, or we should know, that this is being engineered. This engineered food crisis. You have all those meat industries, the farms that have been burned down. I think the last time I counted, it was like 100 farms burned down, like 4 or 5 months ago. Right? It seemed like it was being engineered. It says engineered food crisis, agri biotech motivated by monopoly control, and sacred GMO cash cow. We're currently seeing rising food prices due to a combination of engineered food crisis for geopolitical reasons, financial speculation by hedge funds, pension funds, and investment banks, and profiteering by global grain trade conglomerates. And it gives you the list right here. Right? Now, let me go to the article that's going to link to this scripture that I have here. An engineered food crisis. I think this is the article, right? This is from dissidentvoice.org. Like I said, I'll leave it in the description. An engineered food and poverty crisis to secure continued U.S. dominance. Now, let me scroll down here to the point. What should I just read at the top? I'll just start here. We see an abundance of food, but skyrocketing prices. The issue is not food shortage, but speculation on food commodities and the manipulation of an inherently flawed global food system that serves the interests of corporate agribusiness traders and suppliers at the expense of people's needs. I think this is the point. The war in Ukraine is a geopolitical trade and energy conflict. You see, it is largely about the U.S. engaging in a proxy war against Russia and Europe. Okay, so this is the point I wanted. Right? So it's explaining the Ukraine situation. It's a proxy war. A proxy war is where you have another country. It's one country's fighting, but it's really being backed by a bigger and stronger country. Which Ukraine is fighting Russia, but it's really Ukraine is being backed and trained by America, using American weapons, America or U.S. sending military aid and money to Ukraine. So who's really fighting? Is it Ukraine or is it U.S.? Right? It says it is largely about the U.S. engaging in a proxy war against Russia and Europe, by attempting to separate Europe from Russia and imposing sanctions on Russia to harm Europe and make it further dependent on the U.S. Economics professor Michael Hudson recently stated that ultimately the war is against Europe and Germany. The purpose of the sanctions is to prevent Europe and other allies from increasing their trade and investment with Russia and China. Right? Here it is. Yeah, and neoliberal policies since the 1980s have hollowed out the U.S. economy, with its productive base severely weakened. The only way for the U.S. to maintain hegemony is to undermine China and Russia and weaken Europe. So this is the same reason. So I got the scripture ready. This is the same reason why in the scriptures it speaks about Europe going against America, right? It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore." We know the whore is speaking about America. The 10 horns is speaking about EU, the EU slash aka NATO. Right? It says, "These shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate." When you go into the word desolate, it means nothing. It means empty, hollowed, right? Nothing left. It says, "Make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with" what? "Mo fire, mo fire, mo fire." Right? It says, "It shall make her desolate, shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." Okay? So so what's going to happen is, according to prophecy, you're going to have not only Russia bomb America, you're going to have the other nations bomb America. And one of the nations that's going to take part in the destruction of America is Europe, or the EU. The EU is also going to take part. That's why it's in, what is it? They shall bring hooks to thy jaws. Okay, and I got one more article here. This is Showing Hunger, Reaping Profits. Because you also got to remember, um, you got, it's like a big industry of, right? Because in order, and they tell you this in movies. I believe it was the last Jurassic Park movie. They're attempting to uh, gain or have more control by food. If you can control food, you can control people, and they understand this, right? Sowing Hunger and Reaping Benefits: A Food Crisis by Design. This is in PDF form, but this is actually in this article here. It's one of these. It's one of these here. Financial engineered food crisis, profiteering. I think it's this one. Yeah. So is that. Let me go back here. So this article, or this PDF, is in this first line. You just got to click that, profiteering, right? But if you go to it, I'm going to read this first page here. Sowing Hunger, Reaping Profits. So it goes into the narrative that we're being told and what's actually being done here. So I read this. It says, Sowing Hunger, Reaping Profits. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the headlines have been dominated by the warning of a food crisis on the horizon, according to the official narrative. Due to Russia and Ukraine making up 20 to 30% of the global trade in wheat and more than 50% of trade in sunflower oil, seed, and meal, the current invasion is putting pressure on both global supply and global food prices of staple goods. So this is the reason why they're saying the war in Ukraine is causing the food prices to increase, because Ukraine has a lot of, Ukraine and Russia, they're responsible for a majority of global trade between wheat and other oils and all this, right? It says, as of the pandemic, global inflation has been on the rise, causing detrimental price spikes in some of the poorest regions of the world, right? So then they're still blaming the pandemic. According to the same narrative, we are facing a drop in global food supply, with Europe's breadbasket no longer being able to produce for the foreseeable future. So governments and international bodies are claiming that acting fast to solve the global production gap and remedy supply chains to avoid the worst of famine. Right? So they're saying, look, we can get around this if we start investing in modify, like we can feed you. We can get around this food shortage if we start investing in GMO food. You see, right? Because they want everybody to come to them for food, because you got a lot of these agricultural big businesses. They want a monopoly and control, right? So they're like, look, we can start investing and start creating in alternatives. Just come to us for it. Buy our seeds. You see the game plan here? Buy our seeds. That's why you got people like the notorious BG, Bill Gates, right? He's behind these companies and these documentaries trying to push people to go vegan, right? This is the same reason why he bought a lot of farms in not only in America but all over the world. You know what? I think I might go into that. Let me read this. It says, according to the FAO, World Bank, the International Panel Experts, blah, 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 there is currently no risk of a global food shortage, supply shortage. This is thanks to the higher than normal global wheat stocks and comfortable stock to use ratio at 26.7%, which according to the FAO indicates a relatively comfortable supply level. So there is really no supply. There really is no food shortage, regardless of the invasion of Ukraine. This is also due to the fact that according to Ukraine ministry, the country was able to get its 21 and 22 harvests, which also were larger than average, out before the invasion. According to the recent IPES report, any current gap in this year's wheat supply is also being made up by other countries with supply chains currently rerouting and adjusting shipments, right? Because that wouldn't make sense. If there's a war going on in Ukraine, okay, is this the only place that it can produce all this sunflower oil and seeds and all this shit? It really doesn't make sense. Like, you mean to tell me this fucking country, Ukraine, that nobody heard of years ago, right? Nobody had flags in front of their fucking house. Ooh, help Ukraine. This country is responsible for this much? Really? Really? According to blah, blah, is also being made up by other countries with supply chains rerouting, blah, blah, blah. So why are there so many countries not facing increased risk and securities? I think I'm end it there, right? I think I made my point. I'll leave this in the description. This is the first paragraph of this PDF. You know what? Let me just finish it off. What is crucially being overlooked by most diagnoses of the current food crisis is how the problem does not lie in lack of supply or lack of market integration, but instead in how the food system is structured around power, right? This goes back to that article, right? America wants to maintain their hegemony, right? The only way for the U.S. to maintain its hegemony is to undermine China and Russia and weaken Europe, right? See, Satan divideth against Satan, man. You know, that's what Europe is supposed to be their allies. It says, the fact is the world has already been facing a food and malnutrition crisis long before the current conflict, right? Africa, you know, places in South America. From the colonial era, which saw the beginning of extraction of exploitation of small farmers, to the advent of the Green Revolution, right? The Great Great Reset, right? And the concretizing, of the globalized free trade regime, we have seen the deliberate destruction of small farmers and food sovereignty in favor of corporate power. And this is right. Corporate power, like people like Bill Gates buying up all these and buying out and destroying these small farmers. You see, therefore, it is no coincidence that today we are witnessing the third major food crisis in 15 years. Moreover, the globalized industrialized agri-food system has itself set the precedent for these repeated food and hunger crises. Despite its reiterated proclamations that it is the best solution to global food security, a combination of historic and current conditions set by agribusiness has created a rigid, globalized system based on blah, 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 financial food system. Lock-ins, yeah. All right, that's about it. I think I got the point here. I think I got all the... I mean, it's a lot of info here, probably. I just read this first page here. But it's for power, right? In order for America to continue their so-called hegemony or their power, they got to come against an ally, which is going to bring out this prophecy here. The beast, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore, which the whore is America, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. With fire. Right? Going into the prophecy of the ICBM missiles being used. Right? Alright, so that's about it. I did a lot of reading, a lot of information. Y'all brothers and sisters could check out these articles. I'll leave them in the description box. Lord willing, you were edified. Until the next time, shalawam.